Hello everyone and welcome back. So today we'll have a look at the Chaos Ogre we made in a previous video for our Chaos Custom Blood Bowl team. So what we need to do next is fill these gaps in with some type of filler. So I have milliput and green stuff here, but what we'll go with now is the milliput because it's more of an easier filler, to be honest, than green stuff. You more use green stuff for more detailed work than you would to just fill the spaces that we have here. So we'll use some milliput in order to fill these because we don't really need as much detail just to fill the spaces, because they'll be later covered up with some armor we're going to do. So if you didn't know already, milliput is the same as green stuff. It's a 50-50 mix, 1-to-1, so equal amount, as equal as you can get. So I don't really like to be too precise in this YouTube channel, you might have realised, but just peel off a bit of stuff off the, yeah, that will do. We'll see how this works anyway. Oh god. So if you haven't seen my other videos on casting and making bits, link in the description. So we like to have the milliput in a certain consistency here. As you can see, I'm just folding it in to itself as you would, same concept as making dough. So it'll stick to your fingers and that. You use a set of gloves if you have disposable gloves handy, but I'm not really too fond of wearing gloves and stuff like that. You know, I wash my hands after all this, so I'll be fine. But by all means, use proper PPE safety equipment when doing any of this stuff. So you can see we start to get it to the right consistency that I'm happy with. So we'll just grab this here and start filling in the gaps that we're talking about. So as you can see, I'm just filling in the gaps here and pinching off, taking off any excess that I don't need, and then I'm just squeezing it around, making the general shape of what the torso would be. And as I said, I'm not too fussed about how this looks. I'm going to shape it with sand it down and shape it and put some green stuff over it and make it look more presentable. A bit of armor will be over this as well, so it won't be too much visible to the naked eye. And right here I'm just putting, I realized that an ogre wouldn't have a flat stomach. I don't know in what reality, if fantasy or anything, an ogre would have a flat stomach. He must be on some type of diet. So I took some milliput there and just made a little stomach on the ogre, make him a bit more realistic. And then I just get a little bit more because it seems like the ogre was on a bit of a diet, so put a bit more on there, acting as a bit more of a fold to his stomach and a bit more weight to him. And this gives a bit more realism to the miniature. So instead of putting this on with my finger, as you can see, it's sticking to my fingers, hence why I said use gloves if you want. I just decided to grab a tool here with a silicone head, which makes it easier just to push the milliput into position without it sticking to your fingers. Usually handy to have a few of these laying around. They're pretty cheap. You can get them online for about £3 or €3 or dollars or whatnot. Not too expensive. So once you're happy with the right shape you have there, just make sure you're happy with the placement, and we'll move on to the next steps, which is fill in the gaps of the limbs. So we'll just do the same technique, wrap it up into a bit of a sausage shape, mold it round, and any excess we'll just pinch off with our fingers there. And we're looking for the same thing here, just so it looks kind of like a bicep in the general position, general shape of what a bicep would look like. Doesn't have to be perfect, because like I said, we will put green stuff over this or armor in order to hide any mistakes that we may come across. And with our silicone tool, we're just pushing again in here, making sure the milliput has a good bond to the actual plastic of the miniature itself, so when it hardens it doesn't break away or chip away from the actual miniature. So we're just pushing in the sides here, just making sure we have a good bond there. Just making sure we're happy with this. Finger in the way. Sorry everybody, it's still getting used to the camera work. I doubt it will ever be fully used to this camera thing. I'm trying, guys, so bear with me. Every day is a learning experience, and I do appreciate you for coming along this journey with me. I have a much more projects lined up, and many more already in the pipeline, in the works. So make sure you hit that notification bell and hit the like button and leave a comment, because you don't know how much it really does help the algorithm. So as you see here, we're just making sure that we have enough milliput to hide the gap, but not too much so it doesn't look unrealistic, or so when it hardens we have to fall too much away, because the last thing you want to do is, when the milliput hardens, have to add more. This is just part of one of the learning curves that you will come across, and I am still coming across. I was away from this hobby for 15 years or more before I got back into it, so I'm kind of back learning about like sculpting and how much to add, how much to take away, and what the material is comfortable with, how it works and all this. Yet again, I'm not comfortable with doing YouTube and editing and all this other stuff, so there's learning process for everything. I'm semi comfortable with this type of making process and kitbashing because I used to do it, but the whole YouTube editing process is a proper just new to me. So you don't know, unless you dive back into things or into things in general, you won't know how it's going to work out, if you will remember how to do it, if you will know how to do it at all. It's all about giving it a go. Your limits are what you make them to be. Your hardest, or what is it they say? Your biggest critic is yourself. So at the end of the day, don't be too hard on yourself, because your hardest critic is going to be yourself. So yeah. Message of the day from Kitbash. So like I said in previous, we're just rolling up these little sausage kind of shapes with the milliput and wrapping it around them gaps, and just putting it in any gaps that we have from previously molding it into position. So we're just making sure that it doesn't stick to our fingers. I really should have worn gloves. And you see me picking up the tool very often, but you're just making sure that it's stuck in position here. The last thing you want is for it to be quite loose, and then the milliput dries, and then it ends up cracking, like I said, and falls straight off. So you want to make sure there's a good bond between the actual milliput and the material, the plastic or the wire itself. So we're just pushing it in here with our little tool and making sure. Don't worry if it's on the actual on the actual model itself, because like I said, we're just going to be filing that away and making it look better, more aesthetically pleasing later on when it hardens. So all we have left to do is the wrist here now, and then the 2 legs. So we'll just make sure this is in quickly. And a wee little roll technique that I just made up on the spot there. Roll the miniature between your fingers. So using that silicone tool again, just making sure that we have a good contact with the miniature itself and the milliput material. Add more material when and if we see fit, just to make sure that the gaps are fully filled. Yeah. Make sure the gaps are fully filled. You know yourself, everybody. I need to learn how to speak properly again. Feeling happy with that, we'll move on to the legs here. Just creating that little sausage piece that we've talked about, and making sure also pick up all the leftover milliput that we've been dropping, because it's all just going to be used as a filler, not for to be seen, you know. So I don't really mind if it has a piece of plastic or whatnot stuck to it, but it's bound to. So we're just covering the gap there, making sure it looks general shape thickness as a leg would be, using our tool to make sure the contact is done well, and then making sure we're pleased with that before we move on to the next one. So as you see me having a look there, just putting it at different angles, and I noticed that one side looked a little bit thicker than the other, so not as realistic as I wanted it to be. So I'm just adding a little bit here and there. When you can see it when I'm in frame, it's brilliant, but you can see the after effect. So I'm just adding bits here and there, taking away when I see fit, when I think the miniature needs a bit more extra added to it for more realism. So continuing with the sausage effect, just rolling little bits up, adding bits on, and always rotate your miniature or the piece you're working on just to get a different perspective on it from a different angle. As I said, whenever you can get any type of angle, if I have this in view of the camera, there we go, always after the fact. So at least you can see what we're trying to go for here. The whole miniature tends to come to life once you filled in the gaps. You see the frame more, and how filled out the miniature is itself. So this effect usually can work for pretty much any type of posing or adding on of limbs, like extending them on certain bits like that. So the last thing we'll do here is add a small knee on, just creating the bent knee effect, because this knee is bent slightly in a lifted pose, or so I want it to look that way, because as I said, this is for our Chaos Bloodbowl team, so it is going to be on the field, hence as well why I pose the arms more out, kind of as if they're trying to scare the other players away. So last thing we need to do here is the neck. So it just so happens that, of course, I didn't do enough milliput for the neck. So we'll just put what we have in and make a small bit more up to finish this off. So as you've seen there was a small bit that was contaminated, but because it's just a filler for the neck, we'll just use it. Doesn't really matter, shouldn't really be using it, but hey ho, here we go. We'll use it just to fill in that small little bit. I hate the fact that I didn't make. I was just tiny bit off of making for this whole miniature to be done. But we'll take that piece out that we added from the old batch, mix it in with this, and hopefully it doesn't create some type of chemical reaction and my fingers start melting off and the whole mini starts imploding or something. So we'll have a look how this works out. So we'll just add this on here and wrap it around the wire, creating a bit of thickness to the neck. Using our tool here just to make sure we have a good nice little bond and that it's wrapped around the miniature in a position that we're happy with. So just pushing it in there. The neck isn't really too big of a deal, not because it would be hidden, but more because it's an ogre's neck, so it's gonna have some folds, you know, misshapen. You can play this off. It's not really too big of a deal if there's some mismatch of the neck. Have you ever looked at someone's neck? Yeah, you don't really pay too much attention to it. So just making sure that the back of the head here is attached correctly to the milliput, because when it dries we don't want any bits cracking off and falling off. Right, so that doesn't look too bad to me. As we finish up here, I'd like to thank everybody for staying till the end. And if you have stayed to the end, I'd like to see this. I just first time trying this out. If you stayed to the end, can everybody leave a flame logo, a flame emoji, and we'll see how many people have stayed. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.